Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today my friends and I will be presenting about Sharia issue in Islamic capital market, which is in stock screening and also Sukuk. So introduce, my name is Haziqah binti ABDUL Halim. My metric number is 19BB05036. So you can call me Zika. So the first slide, I'm going to talk about what is Islamic capital market. So from the word Islamic itself, we know that every single activities that involve in the Islamic capital market is free from prohibited activities, which is from riba, gharar, and also maisir. ICM is a component of overall capital market in Malaysia, so it play an important role to generate economic growth in our country. So the ICM function is as a parallel market to the conventional insurance and play complementary role in Islamic banking system and depending to the Islamic financial system in Malaysia. So what you need to know about Islamic capital market. So Islamic capital market as a pasaran modal. So what is a pasaran modal? So siapa yang invest dalam pasaran modal tersebut? In Islamic capital market, their customer is from company, not by individual. So basically in capital market, there is no customer by the individual, but come from the company. Okay, company memerlukan modal. Di mana dia nak mendapatkan modal tersebut melalui dua cara, iaitu boleh dapat loan daripada bank dan juga pelaburan yang investor telah melabur di dalam Islamic capital market tersebut. If the company cannot get a loan from the bank, which is atas sebab-sebab tertentu, mereka juga boleh menjual saham mereka sendiri, which is equity and also bond. But we as Muslim call it as Sukuk. So dengan dua cara ni, so if diorang tak dapat modal tersebut, diorang boleh menjual dengan cara jual saham mereka dan juga jual Sukuk. Malaysia was the first Muslim country that come up with the Shariah stock screening with a formal evaluation for Shariah compliance stock and also Shariah stock index. So SC, which is the Security Commission, is responsible to the Shariah stock screening through by Shariah Advisory Council. So the Shariah screening process to identify that the element from the activities from the company activities are free from the prohibited, which is riba, gharar, and also maisir. So as a Muslim, we know that the prohibited itself based on which root from the Al-Quran and also teaching by Prophet Muhammad. So in Shariah stock screening itself, it's applied to measure, which is from the business activity benchmark and also the financial ratio benchmark. Next, I will explain about the quantitative method and also the qualitative method. So for me, when it comes to the quantitative method, I think of number. So in this context, quantitative method, their objective to compute the contribution of the percentage of the contribution of non-permissible activities, which is by the income and also profit before tax in sesebuah company, in that company. So basically quantitative method ni adalah dia nak mengira percentage non-permissible activities sesebuah company, which is by the income and also their profit before tax. And next is about the qualitative method. Qualitative method, we talk about attitude, sikap kan. So in this context, qualitative method is applicable for the cases where core business activities of the company has maslahah to the ummah or not, but include the small and also minor elements of non-permissible activities.
Hi, my name is MURSHIDA Binti Muhammad Saleh. My matric number is 19BB05035. Today, I want to present about other methodologies of the Shariah screening process for securities. There are other methods of screening provided by other Islamic index providers such as the FTSE, Dow Jones, and Shariah Capital. FTSE Shariah Index Screening Methodology has two types of Shariah screening methodologies, which is Emas and Hijrah. Next, we go to FTSE Emas Shariah Index Screening Methodology. The FTSE Bursa Malaysia Emas Shariah Index has been designed to provide Malaysian investors with a broad benchmark for Shariah compliant investment. The FTSE Bursa Malaysia Emas Shariah Index has applies the principles set out by the Shariah Advisory Council in the design of this index. The general criteria stipulate that Shariah-compliant companies must not involve in any of the following core activities, such as financial service based on riba, which is interest, and then gambling. Next is manufacture or sale of non-halal product or related products, conventional insurance, entertainment activities that are non-permissible according to Shariah, manufacture or sale of tobacco-based product or related product, and next, stockbroking or share trading in non-Shariah compliant securities. And the last one is other activities deemed not permissible according to Shariah. The above method, adopted by FTSE Emas, is the same as mentioned earlier, in that it has been set by SAC of the Securities Commission of Malaysia. Next, we go to FTSE Hijrah Shariah Index Screening Methodology. The FTSE Bursa Malaysia Hijrah Shariah Index has been designed to be used as the basis of Shariah-compliant investment products that meet the screening requirement of international Islamic investors. Companies in the index are screened by the Malaysian Securities Commission Shariah Advisory Council (SAC) and the leading global Shariah consultancy Yasar Ltd. against a clear set of guiding principles. Constituents in the FTSE Bursa Malaysia Hijrah Shariah Index are required to meet the principles set out by the Malaysian Securities Commission Shariah Advisory Council (SAC) and by Yasar Ltd. to ensure that they are not involved in any of the following core activities, such as banking or any other interest-related activities, such as lending and brokerage, but excluding Islamic financial institutions. Next is alcohol, tobacco, gaming, arms manufacturing, life insurance, and lastly is pork and non-halal food production, packaging and processing, or any other activity related to pork and non-halal food.
Assalamualaikum. My name is SITTI ARABIAH binti Saudi. You guys can call me as a Arab. I will explain the Yasar Shariah Index screening methodology. So for the Yasar, provides Shariah compliant stock screening services for the FTSE, and the stock screening criteria are listed like conventional finance, such as conventional banking, finance, insurance, and etc. And another like alcohol, entertainment, such as casino, cinema, hotels. Other than that, tobacco and weapons and defense. So that is listed for the Shariah screening methodology by the Yasar. So I will explain the Dow Jones Islamic market Shariah screening process. So the Shariah screening process of the Dow Jones Islamic market is based on two steps. Firstly, from the financial ratio. Second is from the business activities. Firstly, from the business activities, and secondly, from the financial ratios. So if the companies pass through the Shariah screening process, so the company will be listed as a Shariah securities in index. And the income from the impure sources cannot exceed 5% from the company's revenue. So according to DIGM, Dow Jones Islamic market. So during the component of selections process, each company in index is examined based on its revenue allocations. So if the company has business activities in any one of the listed by the industry classification benchmark, so it is considered inappropriate for Islamic investment purpose, and it is excluded from the index.
Next, we proceed to business activities benchmark. There are two phases of business activity benchmark, which is previous before 2013 and revived after 2013 until currently. In previous, business activity benchmark divide by 4 types of business activities, which is 5% benchmark, 10% benchmark, 20% benchmark, and 25% benchmark. In 5% benchmark, there are include activities which is conventional banking, conventional insurance, gambling, liquor and liquor-related activities, pork and pork-related activities, non-halal food activities, and Shariah non-compliant entertainment. And in 10% benchmark is interest income from conventional account and instrument, tobacco and tobacco-related. 20% benchmark is rental received from Shariah non-compliant activities. And 25% benchmark is hotel and resort operations, share trading, and stockbroking business. And as we can see after 2013, the business activities benchmark has changed to only 2 categories, which is 5% benchmark and 20% benchmark. In 5% benchmark are conventional banking, conventional insurance, gambling, liquor and liquor-related activities, pork and pork-related activities, non-halal food activities, Shariah non-compliant entertainment, interest income from conventional accounts and instrument, and the last one is tobacco and tobacco-related. And in 20% benchmark is rental received from Shariah non-compliant activities, hotel and resort trade operations, share trading, and stockbroking activities. Okay, bagaimana yang kita dapat lihat kat sini, sebelum dan selepas 2013, kita dapat lihat business activity pada 2013 telah diketatkan dan hanya terbahagi kepada 5% dan 20% sahaja. Dan business activity yang 10% pada sebelum 2013 telah digabungkan ke dalam 5% activity benchmark selepas 2013. Dan 25% activities benchmark sebelum 2013 telah digabungkan dalam 20% activity benchmark pada selepas 2013. So SAC telah kecilkan persen untuk aktiviti benchmark kepada dua bahagian sahaja.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is SITI NURAINA binti ABDUL. You can call me Aina. So So proceeding to the next slide, which I will be presenting on the financial ratio benchmark. The first thing is, SE will calculate the cash over total asset, where the cash that included in this calculation are the cash that placed in conventional accounts and instruments. For the cash that company place in Islamic account and instruments, it will not be included in these calculations. Next, SE will calculate on debts over total asset. Debts that include in this calculation are interest-bearing debts, whereas Islamic financing or Sukuk will be excluded from the calculations. Both ratios are for SE to measure riba and riba-based elements within a company balance sheets. Both ratios must be lower than 33%. Company with mixed activities which are currently assessed, their activities are now assessed under the 5% or 20% benchmark. So, for this slide, I will explain on the example of the calculation for SC benchmark. Okey, contoh yang pertama ialah company A, which is listed as Shariah non-compliant company sebab company A ni distributing tobaccos. Jadi, SC akan membuat penyeraan on tobaccos punya revenue dengan cara tobaccos punya revenue bahagi dengan group revenue. Jadi selepas penyeraan tobaccos punya revenue, company ini mendapat 9% di mana ia tidak melebihi 10% benchmark of tobaccos. Jadi status company ini ialah syariah compliant. Tetapi jika mengikut revised methodology benchmark, company ini adalah non-syariah compliant kerana latest benchmark yang telah ditetapkan oleh SC untuk tobacco hanyalah ada 5%, hanyalah 5% sahaja. Okay, next is example for financial ratio benchmark. Okey, SC akan membuat penyeraan based on level of conventional debt. Penyeraannya adalah berdasarkan total conventional debt bahagi dengan group total assets. Based on this example, company gain 36%. Jadinya jika mengikut previous methodology, ia adalah syariah compliant sebab SC tidak pernah menetapkan apa-apa benchmark untuk penyeraan conventional debt. Tetapi jika mengikut benchmark pada masa kini, ianya adalah di bawah non-syariah compliant kerana SC telah menyatakan benchmark untuk conventional debt adalah sebanyak 33%. Okey, sekian sahaja daripada saya. Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURAFIDAH BINTI JAFARUDIN and my metric number is 19BB05004. Okay, so today I would like to present about Sharia issues in Islamic capital market Sukuk. So we go to the first slide, which is introductions of Sukuk. Sukuk is Islamic finance certificate similar to a bond in Western finance that complies with Islamic religious law commonly known as Shariah. Since the traditional Western interest-paying bond structure is not permissible, the issuers of a Sukuk essentially sells an investor group a certificate and then use the proceeds to purchase an asset that the investor group has direct partial ownership interest in. The issuers must also make a contractual promise to buy back the bond at a future date at a par value. So that means Sukuk is now used for financial certificate that can be seen as the Islamic equivalent of bond. As a technical term, Sukuk is known as the Sharia compliance bond or Islamic investment certificate. So we go to the next slide, which is types of Sukuk. We have 7 types of Sukuk, which means first is Sukuk Mudarabah, second is Sukuk Ijarah, third is Sukuk Salam, fourth is Sukuk Istisna, and fifth is Sukuk Al-Wakalah, sixth is Sukuk Murabahah, and the last one is Sukuk Musyarakah. Mudarabah Sukuk. So the Sukuk holder are the silent partner who don't participate in the management of the underlying asset, business or project. So the working partner from Mudarabah Sukuk is the Sukuk obligator or issuers. So the Sukuk obligator or issuers as the working partner is generally entitled to a fee and shares of the profit, which is spelled out in the initial contract with investor. Mudarabah Sukuk should not contain a guarantee from the issuers for the capital or a fixed profit ataupun profit based on any percentage of the capital. So in suku ijarah we call leasing. That what we understand about this, it means transfer of the use of an asset to another person is in exchange of a rent. It means ijarah is that the investor or sukuk holder are the capital provider of the asset and are entitled to receive a return when the asset is leased. For example, the lessor ataupun pemilik aset tersebut receive the sukuk proceed from the investor in return. Each investor get a portion of ownership in the asset to be leased. So, the lessor buy the asset from a seller, then lease it back under the ijarah contract. The company that use the asset and pays rental fees to the lessor is called lease. Okay. So, in salam sukuk, the sukuk holder ataupun kita kenal sebagai investor, funds are used to purchase asset from the seller in the futures. Investor pay in advance funds to the SPV in return for a promise to deliver a return at a future date. So, the SPV provide the money to the seller. This contract require an agent who will sell the futures asset and the proceeds from the sale are returned to the sukuk holder. So, salah sukuk are used to support a short-term liquidity requirement company. Okay, istisna sukuk are based on this type of contract, which is the investor is the buyer of the project and the obligator is the manufacturer. So, the manufacturer agree to manufacture the project in the futures and deliver it to the buyer through SPV. Okay, so siapa SPV ni? SPV ni adalah orang yang akan lease the asset to the another party for regular payment or sell the asset to another buyer. So the process of issuing istisna sukuk begins when the obligator, iaitu manufacturer tadi, dengan SPV sign the istisna contract. Sukuk al-wakalah ataupun dikenali sebagai agent adalah satu arrangement whereby one party entrusts another party to act on its behalf. In general, it is a contract in which a party authorizes another party, usually an agent or wakil, to act on behalf of the former based on the agreed term and condition as long as he or she is alive. Murabahah sukuk cannot be legally traded at a secondary market as the certificate represents a debt owing from the subsequent buyer of the commodity to the sukuk holder, and such trading in debt on a deferred basis is not permitted by Shariah. Musyarakah sukuk is ideal for borrowing to finance large commercial venture such as a factory expansion or construction project. Specific purpose vehicle company can purchase, commission or construct musyarakah assets owned or to be bought constructed by the issuance entity. So the SPV pay cash toward the capital of the musyarakah and then lease the underlying musyarakah asset to the issuance entity for a period equal to the maturity of the sukuk at agreed regular fees or floating rent. So we go to the next slide, which is difference between sukuk and bond. So sukuk is indicate ownership of an asset, whereas bond is indicate a debt obligations. The asset that back sukuk are compliant with Shariah. whereas asset backing bond may include product or services that are against Shariah. Sukuk are priced according to the value of the asset backing them. So for the bond, pricing is based on credit rating. Sukuk can increase in the value when the asset increase in value. For bond, the profit from bond corresponds to fixed interest, making them riba. When you sell sukuk, you are selling ownership in the asset backing them. For bond, the sale of bond is the sale of debt. Okay, so kita teruskan kepada next slide, which is issues regarding sukuk. First is the full ownership of the sukuk holder, means the ownership of the sukuk asset is a prerequisite for sukuk trading before the sukuk are placed into the secondary market. It means sukuk to be tradable must be owned by sukuk holder. So the ownership includes all rights and obligations in real asset, whether tangible, used product or services. Okay, so for the second issues is Shariah compliance of sukuk in trading. The sukuk must be compliant with Shariah rules and regulations. And these requirements has been mentioned in AAOIFI in Article 2, Standard Article 2 and Standard Shariah 17 in investment sukuk. So dalam investment sukuk ni, dia adalah satu sijil dengan nilai yang sama mewakili satu saham tanpa dividen dalam pemilikan aset, projek, services ataupun aktiviti pelaburan khas. And for the third issue is the authenticity of the transfer of the ownership of the asset to the sukuk boots or investor. The importance of the genuine requirements of real transfer of ownerships. It means the manager issuing sukuk must certify the transfer of ownership of such asset in its books and must not keep them as his own asset. It is not acceptable to keep the asset in the books of the sukuk issuers as it is his own asset but in the sukuk holder books. So the investor will be entitled to dividends or returns, if any, as well as sharing loss. This may expose the concept of beneficial ownership to debates and arguments, even through all ownership right and liabilities such as rental income are assigned to the beneficial owner. Okay, so fourth is sukuk must not represent debt or receivable. Representing receivable or debt are not tradable. Securitizations must be purely based on asset, use price or services, except for two conditions. First is a financial institution selling all its assets, including the receivable, as part of the asset. And second is a mixed portfolio, which consists of physical asset and debt or regarding financial papers, which allows the trading of sukuk backed by the portfolio consisting a hybrid of asset made up of debt, receivable and physical asset, where the latter constitute at least 30% of the portfolio. And fifth is prohibitions to offer loan to a sukuk holder, which is liquidity facility. AAOIFI mentions clearly the prohibitions of a loan offered by the manager of sukuk to sukuk holder in case the actual earnings fall short of the expected earning and the loan is offered in order to meet the expectation of the investor, such as offers, is not permissible because it means guarantee of the profit by the issuers in his position as the mudarib or the partner or the agents. That's all from me, and I will hand this presentation to Muhammad Syahirran bin Mansor. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Syahirran bin Mansor. So I will continue presenting about the issue in the Sukuk. So the next issue is the permissibility of the reserve account. So it is not permissible for the manager of Sukuk to undertake to offer loans to a Sukuk holder. AAOFI has suggested the establishment of a reserve account for the benefit of the Sukuk holder. So what the AAOIFI has suggested the benefit to the Sukuk holder? So the first one is the permissibility of the establishment of the reserve account. Number two, the manager can establish a reserve account for the purpose of covering such shortfalls to the extent possible. And the last one is the establishment of the reserve should be mentioned in the prospectus. So the next issue is the permissibility of the distribution of the expected earning. There is no objection by the AAOIFI regarding the distribution of the expected earning on account or to obtain project financing on account of the Sukuk holder. According to AAOIFI Syariah standard on Mudarabah, the mudarib is entitled to share a profit as soon as it is clear that the operation of the Mudarabah contract has led to the realization of such a profit. It is also permissible that the profit be distributed on the basis of contractive valuation, which is a valuation of the asset on the basis of fair value. So, next issue is the prohibition of undertaking to repurchase the asset with its nominal value. The AAOIFI state that it is not permissible for the mudarib to undertake the repurchasing of the asset from Sukuk holders at its nominal value when the Sukuk are extinguished at the ends of its maturity, whether the mudarib is the investment manager. However, it is permissible for the mudarib to undertake the purchase of the basis of the net value of asset, its market value, fair value or a price to be agreed at the actual purchase. So, the repurchase should be based on the first one is market value, fair value, and the last one is according to mutual agreement between the parties at the time of the execution of the transaction. So, besides, the transaction of the sale should be in accordance with AAOIFI. So, the first one is it is permissible for a partner to issue a binding promise to buy, either within the period of operation or at the time of liquidation. So, the second one is guarantee in trust contract. The third one is it is not permissible to stipulate in trust contract. Example, agency contract or contract of deposit. The last one is it is not permissible to combine agency and personal guarantee in one contract at the same time. So, the next issue in the Sukuk is guarantee of the capital at its nominal value by the manager in case of negligence. So, in case of negligence of the mudarib, whereby the manager is a guarantor of the capitals at its nominal value in case of his negligence, with the investor condition, whether the manager is a mudarib, syarik, other words is partner or wakil for investment. So, the next issue is the permissibility to undertake to purchase the asset in ijarah mutahiyah bil tamlik at the maturity of Sukuk. In case of the asset of Sukuk of musyarakah, mudarabah, or wakalah for investment of lesser value than the lease asset of ijarah mutahiyah bil tamlik. It is permissible for the sukuk manager to undertake to purchase those assets for the remaining rental value of the remaining asset, since it actually represents its net value. We move to the next issue. The next issue is the permissibility to undertake to purchase the lease asset for its nominal value. It is permissible for a lease in a sukuk ijarah to undertake to purchase the lease asset when the sukuk are extinguished for its nominal value, provided that the lease is not a partner, mudarabah, or investment agent. The next issue is Shariah Supervisory Board's obligations and duties in monitoring the process. This clause concerns the obligation and the function of the Shariah Supervisory Boards in order to ensure Shariah compliance at all tastes. As we know that the sukuks must follow the Shariah compliance. According to AAOIFI, the obligation and functions of Shariah Supervisory Board should be, so the first one is the Shariah Supervisory Board should not limit their role to issuance of fatwa on the permissibility of the structure of sukuk only. Second, the careful review of all relevant contract and document related to the actual transaction. The third one, oversee the actual means of implementation in Islamic financial institution by taking into account all the parties involved in structuring sukuk. And the last one is ensure that the operation complies at every stage with Shariah guidelines and the requirement as specified in the Shariah standard. So, the Shariah should be involved in the whole process of sukuk, which include what? So the first one is issuing the fatwa on the permissibility of sukuk. Next, structuring the sukuk product. And then checking the contract agreement. Next, checking all the relevant documentations. And the next, profit distribution and loss. Second last, oversee and the means of implementation. And the last one is oversee the various stages of the process. So, the next issue is Shariah compliance in the investment of sukuk proceeds and in the conversion of the proceeds into assets. The AAOIFI emphasizes Shariah compliance regarding the investment of sukuk proceeds and the conversions of the proceeds into assets. It is must to use one of the Shariah compliance method of investment, and the method used must conform with the following AAOIFI standards. So the last issue is from that operation towards true partnership to achieve maqasid al-Shariah in the business and finance. Okay, in this issue is to decrease their involvement in debt-related operations, whether for investment or financing, and to increase true partnership based on profit and loss sharing in order to achieve the objective of the Shariah. As the AAOIFI announced, it is the line with the Shariah rules and regulation. The concept of the AAOIFI announced, it is mentioned indirectly by the standards. However, the announcement is to emphasize the relevant issue. The AAOIFI announced it is to ensure Shariah compliance in sukuk, insurance and trading. And the last one is the sukuk industry is required to meet the requirement of AAOIFI announcement to ensure the marketability of the product, especially it is for the global market. So the conclusion that I can make for the sukuk is Sukuk is an important sector in the Islamic finance industry. It is recorded or significant and consistent growth throughout the history of the Sukuk market. Investment Sukuk are the ideal investment for investors require a fixed investment return with low risk and the Shariah compliant. Besides, all countries have the potential to expand the role of Islamic finance in increasing in contributing to global growth and financial stability. Thank you.
So what we can conclude from our presentation today, it is important to have a harmonized Shariah stock screening that enable to comparability of Shariah compliant. And also the Shariah screening process is not only to determine whether then activities company which is in Shariah compliant or not, but if some part that is not compliant must be taken out from the company and must be channeled it to the charity. So not only screening to be in the stock market, but screening need to be compliant with the Shariah all the time, because we as a Muslim need to do something that related to our religion. So lastly, Sukuk is also play important role, which is important sector in our Islamic finance industry that recorded a significant and also a consistent growth in our country. Thank you from us.